one day I was out with my mom and we were shopping and she said, "What is it, Tom?" And I said, "It's Spoilerin time. We're going to start by talking about some triage emails, but we will spoil episode 9, season 1 of Justified, episode 5, season 1 of 11/22/63, and the movie 10 Cloverfield Lane." And my mom said, "I have no idea what you're talking about." And I said, "March 14th, 2016, you'll know what I'm talking about because I'll be talking about those things with Brian Brushwood."
And then she said, "Who? I bet he was sneezing in the middle of you talking just now in the future."
She's like, "He needs some chicken soup. Let's buy some at the grocery store here at the IGA on Harris Boulevard."
That's right, man. Hey, you want to jump in and start with this? You know what? This is a Better
we should
Call
talk
Saul.
about the movie draft because I want it.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Every week, that's going to be your thing. In fact, we are going to do the movie draft again very soon. Hang in there. If you have any comments on any of the stuff we talk about, feel free to write us at cordkillers@gmail.com. We do have an email talking about how Spoilerin Time is a better show. I'm sorry how Better Call Saul is a better show than Breaking Bad. And I think since we're not talking about Better Call Saul, we'll save this for next week.
Yeah, I mean, we are not going to talk about Better Call Saul this week because South by Southwest Interactive happened. Brian and I were both in Austin putting on Live Night Attack and running around. So it is the one casualty of our normal rotation from that. But this email is great because he's basically saying, like, give me more Mike. Breaking Bad took a while to catch on, but Better Call Saul is doing all the things I want from a show, and thinks Better Call Saul might be in front of that. And I would say, yes, maybe we should call it Better Call Saul so he can call Mike, because it is kind of the story of both of them. Right?
No, it's definitely two origin stories of two very, very different supervillains in this weird, strange universe.
One of the things that Brian and I were able to do because I was in Austin for South by Southwest with Brian was go with a massive group of folks to see 10 Cloverfield Lane, as directed by Dan Trachtenberg and starring John Goodman, produced by J.J. Abrams, and in the Cloverfield universe, though not a direct sequel. And there are some mixed nerd reviews out there, but mostly it's 90+% Rotten Tomatoes. Brian, I'll unabashedly say I loved it.
I loved it as well. And of course, there's no way for us to be 100% fair because when you know the director and you want him to win so bad and you see it, and I fell in love with it. I did think it was really interesting that almost universally the only negatives that I saw anywhere were saying that they wish they hadn't wedged on the Cloverfield title, or made it in the Cloverfield thing. But to be honest, it's like knowing for a fact that 10 times as many people are going to tune in if you put the word Cloverfield in there. Yes, that does minorly affect expectations in that the whole first act, you don't know whether or not anything really did happen outside or not. The fact that it's called a Cloverfield movie lets you know pretty early on that that's a fake mystery happening. But I got to tell you, this movie delivered. It was wonderful and strange and powerful. I think there's going to be an Academy Award for the sound design of John Goodman's labored breathing. It was great. The loud parts, I loved how loud it got. And yet when it was quiet, it wasn't like Jurassic Park where they just made the gap really big and then all of a sudden there were things honking at you and you were more annoyed than anything else. It's like I was really trying to listen at times, like when the helicopters were flying over the bunkers and I was like, what am I supposed to get out of that? And then the loud clanging of the door would snap me out of it. Just wonderful, wonderful work from Danny TRS.
I will say that when she leaves the bunker, there is an odd transition of the feel of the movie because we start to get answers. And I think that's not just a fact that it was an altered ending because they decided to put this in the Cloverfield universe, working from a script that had not originally been intended to be there, but also because in Cloverfield, the movie, and I know not everybody saw 10 Cloverfield Lane, but there are no answers. One of the hallmarks of the Cloverfield movie is there's a horrible thing happening there. It's kind of, a Godzilla-like disaster, but you don't know that it's Godzilla. It could be anything. There are only the barest hints of what's going on. And when she comes out of this bunker where they've been keeping things so mysterious, that mystery box is locked up tight. All you know is what's happening in that bunker. And one bit of outside information to confirm that it's not all in John Goodman's character's head. Suddenly you're like, oh, there's a spaceship. And obviously this is an alien invasion. And like answers are just raining down upon me. And it becomes another story of like, what does she do now? And that is a difficult situation to put yourself in, because I think if I were to see this movie as an indie movie that never got Bad Robot involved, was not part of Cloverfield, and it was a study of the interactions of people in a bunker, and you never know who to believe and who not to believe, you have a great movie. And I think the people who maybe weren't as happy with this were wanting that movie. They're like, but I wanted that movie where I never really knew if John Goodman was crazy or not.
Right.
And it's like, well, you didn't get that movie. And this was a great movie. And now you got, I was like, okay, if she's going to get out of the bunker, something cool has to happen to her. And so, seeing a spaceship and having a dramatic escape sequence and then hitting the road and saying, oh my gosh, I hear a voice. There's a resistance. I must join it. I have now gone from the woman who was admitting that she couldn't help a young girl whose dad was abusing her in a retail outlet a few years ago to a woman who can beat off alien invaders. This process has changed me, and I felt like, okay, I'm okay with this weird change of tone because it has completed the growth and transformation of the main character.
Yeah, well, and when you choose to kind of penetrate that mystery box, when you decide to give a few answers, then when you do it right, the moment you get an answer, you're suddenly way more interested than in the next two questions that were just around the corner. And by the way, I think, yes, it is said a lot about, you gave that very famous talk about the mystery box. What's interesting is that this time, the whole movie takes place inside the mystery box, and it's the outside world is the mystery box. That's what you don't know. You want to know what's happening on the outside, which is so great because that's the bitter irony is if you're on the outside, you want to be looking in, and if you're on the inside, you're trying to be looking out.
It's an inverted box.
It was wonderful. In its pacing, it was a straight up Hitchcock film, and right down to the title sequences looked like it came out of a Hitchcock film.
Well, and the beauty of a Hitchcock film is the mystery is never the point. And that worked for me. Now, I talked to other people, it didn't work for them. And so your mileage may vary. But for me, I knew there is a disaster out there. And when John Goodman's character, as unreliable as he seems, says there's a disaster out there, I know he's telling the truth. And they did a great job in making me go, well, wait a minute. I mean, I think there's a disaster out there, but maybe the disaster never got to Louisiana. Maybe this is just all made up in his head and it's a coincidence. Are they going to pull that kind of thing on me? And I started to doubt whether it was true. And then the lady shows up at the door and you're like, oh, no, there is definitely some stuff going on out there. But then they pull you back into realizing, yeah, even though there is stuff going out there, he's still crazy. Like, that doesn't mean that he's not crazy, that there's not a threat inside as well as outside.
Yeah.
And then you got this wonderful tension of like, well, what's the worst threat? The worser threat. Should I stay inside with the madman or should I leave?
Yeah, I don't know really what else there is to say about it. We can deconstruct all the moments, but just in general, if you haven't seen it, please go see it. It's really, really good.
You know what I liked?
Huh?
What I really enjoyed is that it asked a lot of questions about John Goodman's character, and it decided that it was not going to answer many of them, a lot of them.
Correct.
Correct. Like he mentions, he fessed up to running her off the road, but that doesn't justify what she said is that she was driving north, and he would have been going south.
Right. Right.
You don't find anything about the daughter. You don't, or this other woman. The timeline of when people get in and out of the bunker.
They leave you with ambiguity.
Right.
Yeah. So you don't get direct answers to all that stuff.
Yeah. Now let's talk about 11/22/63, which didn't leave us with hardly any ambiguity,
or anything. Period.
I mean, it was a. If I was set down in this episode and you told me like this is a romantic drama, it's a three-way love story with an abusive husband and it's going to play out. This is the episode where it all plays out. that's okay. That was a pretty interesting movie. When I'm expecting to get a time travel movie about preventing the assassination of JFK, and the main character doesn't even go on the linchpin part of the thing, and we don't even get to see the linchpin part, which is the attempted assassination of the governor, and we spend all the time on this drama with the husband, I'm disappointed.
Hey man, between you, me, and the wall, this is probably one of Stephen King's best books, and it's probably in the lower third of Stephen King's books turned into video projects that I've seen. This particular episode was directed by James Franco, and I don't know that means I should blame him or anything, but I just really did not detect. I did not feel the menace that I wanted to feel from her ex-husband. I thought the actual killing of him was very gritty, but I just feel like everything should feel, I mean, we're halfway through, everything should feel like a noose tightening. We've seen that the past doesn't want to get changed, and that it deals with things, and that it would,
I felt the menace from the husband, and I felt like this was a very compelling, weak man trying to take charge because he's got the knife. But I never felt that James Franco's character was ever not going to get out of it. And I think that's probably what you're identifying is there wasn't that much threat. There wasn't like, oh my gosh, he could die here.
You know what?
I'm not going to drink the bleach. I'm sorry. You're just not going to drink the bleach. You're going to throw it in the guy's face. I saw that coming.
We have the same problem that we've had this entire series long. Right from the beginning, the thing that made me uncomfortable is that they decided to tell me all about the rules of the rabbit hole rather than show me. Show me, don't tell me. And you could have shown me how bad that bleach was. You could throw it on something and watch it change colors and maybe smoke a little bit, you could show me how brutal this person is, but don't show me just a girl with a bag over her head and tell me, well, that's because I cut her pretty good earlier before you were here. Well, guess what? The camera could have been there for that, and then maybe I would have been terrified and angry with them, and I would have felt things that I didn't feel in this situation.
But even then, when they pull the bag off of her head, and he's like, "That's right, she's not going to be pretty anymore," I'm like, I mean, I'll be honest, she still looks pretty good.
That's exactly what I thought too, right? It was just weak stuff, and it's like, and I just feel like we're gonna come back next week, and it's gonna be like Tyrion's Scar, like, oh, he's a disfigured imp who just basically, it just looks like a rugged badass who has a line over his face now. I don't know.
My biggest disappointment, though, and I don't disagree with any of the problems that you're bringing up about the kitchen table scene, the torture scene, whatever. But my biggest problem is that I came here to stop Lee Harvey Oswald. That's why I'm here as a viewer. And you cheated me of that tonight. Like, it's fine for it all to fall apart. It's fine for them not to stop Oswald from shooting or even leave it up to doubt, like, oh, we still didn't find out. But give me that as the episode. That's what I want to see. I don't want to have the main character not even be there and the other character just randomly have a hallucinatory episode about his
I think they were clearly telling the story of it showed yet another trick up history's sleeve to keep everything
sure.
I mean, and I don't mind
but
that.
It felt like the B plot of like, oh, by the way, we got to tell this story.
Yeah, maybe it just was the B plot. I don't know. It's I'm just caring less and less. There have been a few moments of real brilliance in this series so far that have taken me along for a ride, but this is not one of them. I basically all we found out is that he loves her enough to tell her the ridiculous truth that he's from the future. Her face got messed up. But again, all of this, it's hard to feel like the consequences really matter all that much, just knowing there's a reset button, Chekhov's reset button.
And they strung it out too. Like, yeah, I've known he loved her, and it'd been great if he would have admitted that 2 episodes ago, and then that would have been an amazing piece of tension of like, oh, can I reset? Will I make her fall in love with me again? They're not playing with any of the stuff they've set up.
Right. Right.
All right. Let's talk about Justified, episode 9 of season 1, Hatless, where we see kind of that Raylan has been given some time off because of the inquiry into his shootings, and he has decided to use it not to see the person that has got him in the most trouble, Ava, but to dive into a bottle and start drinking and then picking fights with jerks who are saying things that he doesn't approve of, and he gets crap beat out of him. But that doesn't stop him from confronting Wynn Duffy and the fine folks at the loan center on behalf of his wife, and suddenly we got the makings of a story arc going on here, don't we?
Well, in which regards? I mean, certainly we get a lot more backstory.
Well, we've got him back in a relationship, albeit a platonic one, with his wife because he's interfering in their affairs.
Right.
We've got an organization that is now wise to the fact that Raylan can pull this off, and we know that there's this Wynn Duffy character out there, and we didn't even see the other story arc element, which is Boyd and the Crowders, and I think that's the surprising thing about it is how much I enjoyed this episode without even having the Crowders involved in it.
Well, and I was gonna ding it as far as getting no progress over there, but I realized you're right. We do see a substantial amount of progress as far as getting the backstory and figuring out what kind of embroiled situation he is from a totally different angle. Having said all of that, the replacement husband, his ex's new husband, doesn't he's not acted in a hypnotic way of being weak. He's just sort of like, I'm weak, and it's like, well, yeah, we could tell.
Well, and as good as Raylan is at convincing you that he is a stone ice cold killer when he needs to be, it's so apparent how not really flawed and weak the other character is. He's just sort of me.
Yeah. Although I do think it was interesting. I kind of liked where they were headed with this the Loan Shark crew. And I guess it was kind of tense with the Mexican standoff at the end, but by and large, I'm ready to get back to the bigger story. I didn't love it, but I liked it okay.
Yeah, I would say that of the episodes that haven't touched on the Crowder arc, this is the first one I could say, you know what, I really liked this other secondary arc that we've got going on. I liked the fact that we have now done more with his ex-wife than have them go, you were cold and stupid and why didn't you love me? Like, we actually moved that along. Totally agree with you on the paper thin character of his ex-wife's new husband. And I think Wynn Duffy is intriguing. And we got what's his name back, the guy who sits in the diner and makes off-color comments about the waitress and always knows things.
I don't remember that guy's name. Well,
yeah, I don't remember his name either. But
okay.
I was glad to see him back. He was in Sex and the City too, that same actor. So
got it. Well, I'll tell you what. Apologies, it's a shorter episode this week. We're going to be double full because we're going to finish.
Never apologize. We packed so much in, folks. If you
so
think
dense.
It felt short, go back and listen to it again, and then it will be the normal length.
Next week, we're going to have 2 Better Call Sauls. We'll have the rest of House of Cards, and of course, all the regular suspects. Thank you guys so much for hanging with us, man.
No, thank you guys. You are amazing, and we will spoil you next time.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.